It's 2 degrees outside, but you are nice and warm in your new house in Florida. Before you bought that house, though, did you sell the house here in the Chicago area, or are you still owning it? Because if you're still owning it, if you're waiting for the springtime to sell the house, you may want to listen to a couple pointers about municipal requirements in this video. I'm Ben Weaver, Illinois attorney. I help folks all over the Chicagoland area buy and sell their principal residence. And today, we're going to talk about municipal, the city and the village requirements to sell a house in general. So let's get started. In the Chicagoland area, there are a lot of different cities and villages that you can call home. And if you're looking to sell, in order to sell, you have to check with that city, with that village, to see what their specific requirements are, because every town does it a little differently. For example, there are some cities that require a full-on inspection. So before you can sell the house, you have to contact the city, and the city comes out and they do a full inspection, and they may find some building violations. Maybe there's updated code. Not saying that you knew that you had a violation, but just an updated code that needs to be completed. For example, they do this in North Chicago. They do this in Berwyn. They do this in Matson. So different towns do this, and it's a good idea to make sure that you're aware of those. If the village inspects a house and they find some things that need to be upgraded, well, you gotta do it before the closing. So that is another task to complete before you actually sell the house. There are other cities that have a zoning certificate. For example, in the city of Chicago or in River Forest, you have to go to the village hall and you have to get a certificate saying that the property is zoned correctly. Now, usually, if you have a single family house, this isn't a big deal, but if you're in the city of Chicago and you own a 3-flat, you have to make sure that the city approves it's legally used as a 3-flat. Sometimes the city will come back and say, oh no, that's a 2-flat, and you've been running out the basement unknowingly, illegally for all these years. So you definitely want to make sure you avoid that before you sell the house. Other villages will have a requirement to take care of the final water meter reading. So some towns, it's very simple. You just go to the village and they look up the current meter reading on their computer and you pay it. It's nice and easy. Other towns, someone from the city has to actually go to your house and look the actual meter reading before they can do that. So they have to set up an appointment, and it takes a couple days to complete. And there's still other towns that have other requirements, like, for example, in order to complete the closing, the village has to receive the original deed. They have to stamp the transfer stamp on the original deed before it can be recorded with the county. So there are all sorts of different little peculiarities that every city, every village in the area has that's very unique. But you also have to keep in mind there may be an issue that you're unaware of holding the closing back. For example, what about that roof? The roofer said, oh, I'm going to take care of all the permits. Well, did that roofer who's taking care of all the permits get the final city inspection? You may need to double check to make sure that there are no outstanding building permits that could delay the closing. Now, it's a good idea to check on your own, but there are other towns where the buyer is actually responsible to go to the city and get that final transfer stamp. For example, in Mount Prospect, the buyer has to go to the village and pay for the transfer stamp, but it's always a very interesting, I would say, very kind of embarrassing situation where the buyer goes to buy the stamp saying, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this house tomorrow, I'm so excited. And the city says, wait, you can't buy the stamp yet because the seller still has outstanding permits. But you're not the owner, so we can't tell you what those permits are. You just have to tell your realtor, tell your attorney, contact the seller side, because the seller has to get in here and take care of those issues. So there's always a lot to take care of, and this is my number one parting suggestion. If you are selling your house, make sure to contact the city, contact the village early in the process to know exactly what you need to do and to see if you have any outstanding open building permits or anything that needs to be taken care of. If your municipality has a village inspection, it's a great idea to get that village inspection taken as soon as you can so you can get those issues repaired and it's not coming up creating another stress level, another headache right before the closing. The other bit of advice is to make sure you're working with real estate professionals. Work with a realtor, work with an attorney who's going to take care of this stuff for you. For example, if you're living in Florida and you're not in Illinois, a good realtor will meet with the inspector at the house to make sure that everything goes well. For example, a good real estate attorney will work with the village, will work with the title company to make sure that the final transfer documents are all completed and everything is processed so that you don't have to bother going to the village hall. The attorney and the title company will do it for you. Well, have you sold a house in the Chicagoland area and run into any issues with the municipality? If you have, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear some stories. Any questions about this? Feel free to leave them in the comments too. I'm Ben Weaver, Illinois attorney, and I'll see you in the next video.